All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the second round of the public budget meetings for fiscal year 2027. I just want to remind the public that while comments will not be taken during these sessions, we want it to be clear that your input is important. There will be a dedicated public hearing schedule in the coming weeks where residents will have the opportunity to share comments, ask questions, and provide feedback on the proposed budget. Okay, first up, we have juvenile court.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Hello.
Thank you. I am the presiding judge in juvenile court. My name is Leslie Miller Terry, and I'm here with our court administrator, Colin Slay, who basically handles the day-to-day operations. Here we go. As far as the budget is concerned and the administration of the office. So let's begin. Mr. Slay.
And before you move forward, I just want to give the public explanation of what they see on their screens. So what we have on the visual is from our accounting software, Munis. So this is basically our budget in electronic format. And so starting from my left, you have the full account number, the object class number, as well as the description of the account line item. You also have the 2027 department amount, which was submitted. You also have the 2027 recommended amount, as well as the revised budget amount for fiscal year 2026, and the actual for fiscal year 2026 as well.
Would you like me to go line by line, or should we just jump into what we had prepared was to start with the 3 top items on our budget?
Sure.
That we are asking for, and these are increases from last year.
Okay.
So we wanted to start there because
Sure, that's
they're
fine.
the most important as far as we're concerned, as far as increase. Last year,
Excuse me, Judge Military, because they're recording, can you speak closer to the microphone to make sure they hear it back in the back?
all righty. Well, let's start. We want to start with the indigent defense budget. All right, that would be, if we can scroll up or scroll down to item, I believe it's 11. Well, can't see that on your screen. All righty. All right. Now, the fiscal year 2026, the amended budget was $305,000. This year, we're asking for an increase to $495,000. Now, the reason for that increase, we're asking for 3 full-time parent attorneys as well as 3 full-time children attorneys, which is recommended, or not recommended, required by our statute. The section OCGA 1511-103 requires the appointment of attorneys to parties in dependency cases. These cases involve the children and families. These are the child welfare cases. Most people don't realize juvenile court handles the bulk of these cases. I'll give you an example. You all, something that was in the media, you all may have heard of about the case where there were two young children, 6 months old. It was reported that one of the children was missing. That child was later found deceased in the woods. If you remember, the parents were subsequently arrested. I had to make the decision when we thought maybe the mother's not involved, we get those calls. Our judges are on call 24/7. So we get calls in the middle of the night to make the decision whether to remove that child or not. That's the beginning of a dependency case. In that case, of course, I made the decision to remove the twin sibling. That means we start a brand new dependency case. Now, we get these cases, unfortunately, more than we'd like to. In these cases, you have to appoint attorneys. In that case, you had a father, a mother. The child's going to be placed with, could possibly be a relative. The law says we have to appoint each parent, if they ask, an attorney. That's why we're asking for an increase for our parent attorneys. So we have 3 courtrooms, 3 judges, 1 parent attorney for each courtroom. Now, with that 1 parent attorney, say they represent the 1 parent, we have to actually appoint that other person or parent an attorney by statute. And because of that representation that's required, if we have attorneys that are under contract, it doesn't matter how many cases that come into the office, they will be required to handle those cases. Now, what we've experienced in the past, if that contract fee is too low, you can't get attorneys to sign the contract. And you've probably experienced that with our last contract. We needed 3 attorneys, maybe 1 or 2 attorneys will sign the contract because we're not paying enough for them to give up the rest of their private practice to attend to these cases only. Sort of like the public defender's office. Some offices, say in other states, such as Baltimore, which is not a state, Maryland, but in the city or the Baltimore, they have, under their public defender's office, they have dependency attorneys as well as attorneys for the other cases, for the delinquent cases. We don't. As you know, we just have a public defender's office that handles only delinquent cases. We don't have attorneys that are set aside just for dependency, and basically that's what we're doing. We are saying, these attorneys will be under contract to handle the dependency cases only per courtroom. So they can't say, some attorneys who wanted to sign the contract said, well, okay, if you're only paying me this amount, I can handle about 60 cases. Unfortunately, my courtroom alone, there's over 200 and something cases, but that one attorney will be responsible for over 200 cases. So paying them $50,000 won't do. So that's why I'm asking for an increase to $75,000 per attorney. So if they do have a private practice, most of them do, they can let some of that go so that they can attend to these cases. Now these attorneys are also required to be present at every hearing or send a designated attorney to handle. In other words, there's no conflict, there's no I'm on leave, you know how the attorney's going to file leave of absence. Well, you can't do that. You have to send someone in your place. And that, again, is why we're asking for $75,000. We have to be able to pay these attorneys in order for them to sign these contracts. So it's $75,000 per attorney for the dependency cases would amount to $495,000, and that's the increase amount.
And I would also just point out, currently with the number of contracts and attorneys that we have on contract, we're really only able to operate 1 dependency hearing at a time, even though we have 3 full-time judges, because the attorneys are tied up. And what often happens is when we don't have that second or that third attorney, we have to go to our court-appointed attorney process. Often results in a continuance for that particular day, which means that child's potentially in protective custody for a longer period of time. And then two, the case rate, if you break it down, what we pay the contract attorneys versus what they're being paid if they're under the panel system, we pay those panel attorneys a lot more money per hearing, per case than we would under the contract. So it's not an apples to apples comparison because they're operating in two different functions, but if you were to break it down by hearing rate, it would definitely be more expensive for us to continue doing what we're doing, even though we're asking for the increase.
Excellent point. And the other issue, if we're not given this increase, at some point, the additional, we'd have to go before the commissioners for additional funding, as Mr. Slade just mentioned, because the panel attorneys will be called on more often. And again, great point. I've failed to mention the continuance. These cases will be continued in order to get the attorneys to be able to appear, because we don't have enough for us to handle what we call our emergency hearings. Every dependency case, if a case comes before us, we have to have what we call preliminary protective hearing within 72 hours. So that's on top of the case. We may have a complete calendar, full calendar for that day, but you have to bring in another attorney at certain times to handle that emergency case if we're in another courtroom doing another case, but we can't even do that unless we have enough attorneys to do that, which is the 3 separate attorneys, because if you only have one attorney, that attorney can't be obviously in 2 places at one time. Mr. Slade.
The next area we were asking for an increase would be the emeritus and pro tem fees, which I believe is right above indigent defense there on the screen. These fees are used to provide judges pro tem. Judge Miller-Terry just mentioned those emergency hearings. We have those also on the delinquency side. We have to have those hearings within 48 hours when a child is detained. And because of our court dockets being full, we often bring in the judges pro tem, which is a temporarily appointed judge, to hear those particular hearings. The judges pro tem also fill in when our judges have conflicts or when they're at conferences or on leave or something of that nature. But the majority of that is to cover those initial appearances, which by law we have to have very quickly. We have much quicker timelines than the adult criminal justice system and juvenile court. And that would allow us to be able to, again, it speaks to that continuance issue that we have, especially on the dependency side. If we're able to appoint those cases and still move forward with the other cases that our judges have on their docket, what should help reduce those continuances that we're currently facing. And I would point out those continuances are something that the state has started really paying attention to. I believe it was in 2024 we started having to report data related to those things to the state, which could obviously affect future funding opportunities through grants and things of that nature, because they're really monitoring that.
Right. And just to elaborate on the timelines, most people don't realize, when Mr. Slade mentioned timelines, we have much stricter timelines than they do in any other court, such as with the children. If they are detained, as he said, we have to have a trial in juvenile court within 10 days if they're detained. You have to have, if they're not, an adjudication hearing within 30 days, a disposition 30 days from that day. These timelines are statutorily required. So if, which again is a reason that we have to have the pro tem judges as well as the panel judges. In the other cases, the dependency cases, timeline is very strict. We're talking about from beginning to end. Your first hearing has to be, as you said, within 72 hours. Then you have to have an adjudication, which is, we can say trial, within 10 days from that. Then you have a disposition 30 days from that day. Then a 75-day hearing from the time the child went into custody. You have to have what we call a 75-day review. From that, you have to have a 4-month review. Then from that, you have to have a permanency plan hearing within, depending on the age of the child. If they're under 7, it has to be within 9 months, over within 12. But we don't like to leave the children just lingering even that long. We'll hold a hearing within a review hearing within 3 months, because sometimes, say the child is in a hotel, if they had nowhere to place them, you hear that often. We make sure we get that hearing in as quick as possible, before the timeline ends. So we're constantly having hearings, constantly moving, and which means these attorneys are in court they're in court every day, depending on which judge has a hearing. Every judge has, because we have 3 judges, there's someone in court, a judge in court, every single day.
And then the last major increase we're requesting is actually in other contract services, which I believe should be up on the screen, up a couple of there. Yeah, right there. So the majority of the increase here is related to what we, under an umbrella term, call the family treatment courts. That is, encompasses our juvenile treatment court, which is our behavioral health court, which I'm proud to say we were able to get certified this year. It also encompasses our second chance court, which is a court for high-risk designated felony offenders, as well as our Clayton County Handgun Intervention Program, which does exactly what it says, and also our girls court, which is focused on trafficking and other issues related specifically to girls. We were able to offset a little bit of the cost for that this year through a grant through the Council of Accountability Court Judges. We all know how grants work. They're not guaranteed. So we are in the phase of moving for the behavioral health portion, in particular, moving from sort of a pilot phase into full implementation, which will actually allow us to triple our capacity in that program now. So that's where those funds would be going. And I would point out the other increases in our budget. You'll see slight increases in several lines. Those are really reflective of increased costs that we've incurred from suppliers, vendors. An example I can give you is that the contract for our LexisNexis Advanced subscription, which is our legal research tool, the contract has a built-in 4% increase year over year. And there's not much we can do about that because they kind of have the market wrapped up on that end of things. And I believe that was all we wanted to highlight. We'll be happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
Can you speak to the line item for medical services?
Yes, sir. So that actually used to be under other contract services, but I know the county is really trying to focus on making sure those commodity codes and those things are correct. So that money actually provides funding for our contract with our behavioral health clinician for the behavioral health court, and that's why it ended up in the medical services fees. That was actually what we were able to offset this year with about a $45,000 grant from the Accountability Court Council.
And we are required to have a therapist for the behavioral health program. It is the bulk of the program surrounds having a therapist for the children.
And these accountability courts, I mean, I know we see them a lot. The adult system has several of them in Superior State Court, but these really are sort of the innovation in the justice world of late. They're evidence-based. They are showing a lot of results, better results than the traditional system of incarcerating people, doing those things. They're really geared around problem solving and helping those individuals solve their problems so that they're able to carry on in a better way.
Okay. And lastly, you requested additional funding for training and travel.
Yes, sir. So again, we've noticed costs associated with conferences and training. They're all going up. We've incurred several increases in even some of the professional associations. The dues have gone up. The conference fees are going up. Of course, travel's costing more than it used to as well. We are pretty well maintaining all of the training we have traditionally done. The only thing that's been added in the last year, which we took from the Family Treatment Court money this year, was an accountability court conference called All Rise that is sort of the premier national accountability court conference that we send our behavioral health court team to. Or actually, they're going later next month.
is July.
Okay.
Because it's the same
That's
time
right.
we're going
Yeah,
to
yeah.
the other.
Yeah, that's right. It's this summer, I'm sorry.
Any more questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Have a great afternoon.
All right, next up, we have the Solicitor's Office.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
All right. How we doing? Good morning. It's good to see you as well. I don't know if this is a new format for me, so if you would be so kind and direct me in what you need me to do and how to go about presenting.
Sure.
And Mr. Jackson, we haven't had the pleasure of meeting, but it's lovely to meet you.
Same here.
All right.
All
So
right.
please direct.
So yes, if you could just speak to your budget request for fiscal year 2027, and you can also highlight some of your budget priorities as
Okay.
well.
Okay. So I guess we'll start with additional salaries. Year over year, the solicitor's office case numbers have increased. And then the pandemic did nothing but make it grow exponentially. And the increase was a backlog of cases, which requires more manpower to really resolve that backlog of cases. So while you see solicitor additional salaries, that incorporates several different positions. To the first, and I guess by order of priority, would be litigation support specialists. We requested two additional positions for a litigation support specialist. Now that is a new position to our office, but I can tell you where it came from. Essentially, for the last several years, and not just my office, but throughout the state of Georgia and throughout the country, there's been a decline in the number of attorneys who are interested in prosecution. So the recruitment effort for getting prosecutors is very difficult right now, and primarily it's because of money. Similar to what Judge Military was just saying, the amount of money that can be made in private versus public worlds apart. But you don't go into public to make money. You go into public for experience and altruistic reasons. But the litigation support specialist is basically a position in which we would hire a high-skilled paralegal to assist in the courtroom. Right now, we have 5 courtrooms that we manage. Those 5 courtrooms are each one. Our general caseload is about 50,000 a year, 50,000 cases a year. And so if you break that down by courtroom, on average, maybe 10,000 cases per judge, right? Right now, we have 1 prosecutor every courtroom, and that's a lot. When you're talking about arraignment, if you've ever been to traffic court in Clayton County, traffic court in Clayton County is probably about 500 to 1,000 people on average, as every Thursday. And imagine one person doing that, because that's essentially what's happening. And so a litigation support specialist is a paralegal that will assist in the courtroom in lieu of hiring a prosecutor, which would actually be a higher cost. This is our alternative for trying to fill the gaps. So we're requesting 2 of those positions for a total cost of $153,762. Each one of those positions hold a marker at $76,881. And that's the total cost for the position. That's the salary, the benefits and equipment and everything. That's the first position that is a priority on our list. The second, and I know y'all gave this clicker to me, but I'm not using it. So okay, all right, okay, all right. The second position is the Deputy Chief Investigator position. Now, our investigative unit, I mentioned to you that we have about 50,000 cases. A lot of times when cases come to the solicitor's office, they come from police departments. where their standard for, to make an arrest is probable cause. If you know anything about the criminal justice system or not, the probable cause is the lowest standard that you can make an arrest on. But by the time the case gets ready to go to trial, your standard becomes beyond a reasonable doubt. And beyond a reasonable doubt requires more investigation, and that's where our investigative unit comes in. And so right now we have about 5 investigators and a chief investigator. So that's about 6 people, and the chief investigator is pretty much an administrator to ensuring that our investigators have their post hours, ensuring that they have the equipment they need to do the investigations, ensuring that there are no glitches in our system. But we're short investigators, though. And so the point of creating a deputy chief investigator and is really to, one, increase the number of investigators, but also to create a line of succession. Because our chief investigator, who actually is here, present, he at some point he may decide he want to leave because he has years in law enforcement. We want to have a succession plan in place, and that deputy chief position will create an opportunity for him to mentor whomever that person may be, and also to create us more manpower to actually investigate the cases in a way that we can actually be successful in prosecution. The whole point of the criminal justice system is to order people's behavior. And if you find a lot of people who end up going to trial on every case, and the outcome is not successful for the prosecution, then that behavior is not tempered. And the whole point is tempering behavior. So that's second on our list of priorities. That comes in at a cost of about $119,100. And that, again, that is the total cost of the salary, benefits, and equipment for that individual. Last and certainly not least, and this is along the lines of similar to what I just mentioned, investigation capacity. We want to hire, and again, this will be in lieu of hiring an investigator or bringing on new investigators. But we're contemplating 2 additional positions for an investigative assistant. An investigative assistant would be somebody who we would contemplate is probably a part-time, not a part-time, but somebody who's probably a retired law enforcement officer, somebody who had experience in, somebody who maybe have left from another office and they're moving in a different space in life. And so that's why we can bring them in at a lower rate, but still get the same output. But the investigative assistant position would be somebody who is clerical in nature, picking up evidence from the various jurisdictions. Also for our digital evidence requirements, like i.e. 911 calls, body cam, they make those requests and ensure that we have that information. Something to note about 911 and body cam digital evidence, and you guys know this better than anybody because you guys have to pay for it. The cloud capacity of Clayton County is large, it's very large, but it's not limitless. And so those things expire after a certain time, and by the time cases get to our court, a lot of times they have already expired. And so the point of this position, investigative assistant and whatnot, is so that we can catch those things early on. We can catch them and save them in a way that by the time the case is ready to go to trial, we actually can be successful in trial. The cost for that position is $64,941, and that's 2 positions. Again, that includes salary, benefits, and all of the necessary equipment. Those are our 3 budget priorities. I believe we may have made very minor increases in other areas, but I can speak to them if you like, but if you would just direct me in which area you want me to talk to.
Yes, can we take a look at contract services?
Okay. If you will go back, I think your previous screening had like the years, right? 24, 25, 26.
Yes.
Yeah. So contract services is line, that's account 4140.
Yes.
Okay. So essentially, we have two vendors that we use for our pretrial diversion program, and those individuals are paid through contract services. Pretrial diversion is a program that we've created, that was created years ago, actually, by former solicitor military, where it's an alternative resolution for a case. Essentially, a person with little to no criminal history, if they have little to no criminal history, we can divert that case into a different path where we don't have to actually prosecute it. They'll go to various classes, do community service. In some cases, they may have to go to counseling, but in every case, if they're successful, the case is dismissed. And the point of that is to ensure that our citizens are productive citizens. And as you know, a criminal record does not help in that regard. For work, for housing, for benefits, for a number of different areas of life. And so the diversion program is administered through our contract services account. One of our vendors is Operation 21, but we also trying to onboard another vendor who actually has a larger digital profile, and their platform is a little bit different, but we envision that number 91,200 will cover both of those contracts, and this is a program that's been going on as long as it's been since former solicitor military was the solicitor, and so that's well over 15 years.
And can you also speak to training and travel? You're requesting an increase of, it looks like, 10,000 or so.
Mm-hmm. One more thing to contract services. The primary use for contract services is to our training, to our pretrial diversion program. Every once in a while, if there is money that allows us to hire an attorney on a contract basis, it will also come out of that account, and that would be more hourly as opposed to salary. But going back to training and travel. If you go into the details for me. So for our training and travel budget, essentially there are certain things that are required for certain positions. We have 12 prosecutor positions on the books, including myself, and each one of those prosecutors are required to have CLE hours, continuing legal education hours. That's mandated in order to maintain your bar license. Additionally, our investigators, we have five investigators and a chief investigator. The 5 investigators, they're required to have what's called post hours, post or law enforcement hours, where they have to do continuing education. And not only do the 5 investigators have to have post hours, our chief investigator also has post hours, as well as what they call chief hours. And those chief hours are executive hours that are required for him to hold his position. Not only are those two or 3 positions mandated training, we also have paralegals that have to get CLE hours in order to make certain that they're competent in the work that we're asking them to do, and that's where our legal support staff will fall.
Okay.
Now the cost, I thought we were contemplating that's a minimal increase, particularly now that we are in war with oil producing country, and so the cost of travel has increased significantly.
And those are all the questions that I have.
We're done.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. All right. What's your name?
All right. Next up, we have the Office of Resilience and Sustainability.
All right, good morning. My name is David Vasquez, and I serve as the Chief Resilience Officer and Director for Emergency Management here in Clayton County. Today I'll be going over just a few accounts that require some attention. I will say that I am in concurrence with many of the recommendations from Finance with the upcoming budget. However, I am going to give a bit of an overview, which will then segue into a few reasons for some justifications, especially as it relates to additional salaries, but we'll get to that here in a second. So our department overviews, our office is responsible for safeguarding life and property and the continuity of government by leading coordinated all-hazard emergency management response and resilience programs. Our office is guided by FEMA National Preparedness Goal, GEMA and Homeland Security, the official code of Georgia, which is Georgia Law Title 38, and the official code of Clayton County Chapter 34, which reflects the county's statutory responsibilities and commitment to a whole community approach. Resilience is not treated just as a standalone function, but as a foundational principle embedded in planning, operations, investment, decisions, and recovery strategy. Through this approach, our office seeks not only to manage emergencies, but to reduce risk, limit disruption, strengthen long-term community well-being. We assist in equipping and coordinating county departments, municipalities, public safety agencies, private sector partners, nonprofit organizations, and residents to collectively build capability across all mission areas, which are prevention, protection, mitigation, response, and recovery. So in that, and even in the state of Georgia, we are considered a public safety organization. I will like to jump to account 4420, which is the ORS safety supplies. Now with this account, we did initially budget the $28,000. However, we're going to abandon that item. It was initially requested due to notification from UWASI, or the Urban Area Security Initiative, change their procurement policies. So this will be treated more so as a grant coming forward at no cost to the county, as we will be fully reimbursed. And we will treat that as a project expense account. But however, this segues into my next account, so don't get rid of that money just yet. Next, I want to talk about 4345, which is the ORS food and dietary supplies. Now, we requested $5,000. Finance recommended $2,500. So with this is how we equip and provide essential staff and employees during declared disasters and Emergency Operations Center activations, and to include all FEMA and GEMA directed classes that we host throughout the year. Now, back on February 17th of this year, there was a budget amendment 2.29 where Finance amended our budget to place money back after our 2 winter events. At the time, a commissioner asked, well, will this be funded moving forward? And the answer was yes. So I am requesting that out of that $14,000 that we're abandoning out of ORS, that the additional $2,500 be moved into that account to bring it back up to $5,000. Now going on to 4075, which is the ORS additional salaries, which I'll spend a little bit more time on, and this is one of our biggest asks. I'm looking to reclass my administrative assistant to an office manager, as the increase in office management responsibilities for 7 personnel and extends valuable ad hoc operational support to not only myself, but every person inside that office. The office manager will ensure procurement and grants compliance, reimbursement tracking, and audit readiness. Along those lines, the office manager also helps with time cards. So if not funded, it creates a parity issue among similar employees within the same job title and job responsibilities. We've seen throughout this last budget year that assistants, when they get an increase in job responsibilities, there have been stipends or an increase in pay. So I'm asking for the same. And if not funded, it creates a liability where the employee begins looking for other job opportunities outside the county. So I'm also requesting, if it's possible, with that additional money out of fire or safety supplies, as we are requesting salary and benefits, a total of $9,800 in that 9889, that the rest of that money's be moved over, which still nets a cost savings into our overall budget. And lastly, I want to talk about an additional position. The Homeland Security Officer, salary and benefits, total compensation would be $106,676. The key responsibilities of the program of this is the program manager for the Critical Infrastructure and Key Resource Program, the Hazard Mitigation Program, and serves as a liaison between county, state, federal, and threat intelligence agencies. If not funded, it creates delays in completing our county's THIRA, or the Threat and Hazard Identification and Risk Assessment, and updates to our hazard mitigation plan. So if we're not able to complete our THIRA or the CIKR, or the Critical Infrastructure Key Resource Program, it creates a 100% possibility of disqualification of future security and emergency preparedness federal grants. That not just affects our department, but affects departments countywide, to include fire, police, sheriff, and anybody else who goes after Homeland Security grants or FEMA grants. So if we're not able to complete our programs, which in our KPIs throughout the year, we have addressed this, that we are behind on getting this done. The way it was done in the past, and we want to move forward from that, is that we utilize a small task force of police officers and firefighters. However, due to increased call volume and their key responsibilities, we can't continue to pull them from that. And it would create an overtime issue for those departments because they're having to work either on their days off or other times just to try to complete aspects of this program. So with that Homeland Security officer, they would take on that program as a whole, creating those assessments. It also creates extreme vulnerabilities and gaps in protection from man-made natural disasters, cybersecurity threats, and terroristic activity. As you know, that we do house the airport in Clayton County, so a lot of stuff comes out of there. So we do work with our other partnering agencies to identify threats to the county. So that is my ask with additional salaries. And with that, that's pretty quick and to the point. I'll be happy to address any questions.
I just have one question about building, lease, and rental, that line. It looks like the department request is 14,000 more than the finance recommendation, but it looks like the department request is in line with
Yes, so
last year's budget.
So we do rent out a space in Morrow, so we're not inside an actual county facility. The original lease agreement did have it to where this year it would be $114,000. However, when we relooked at that lease agreement, we're okay with the recommendation from finance as I think it was recommended $100,000, so I think we're going to be okay with the lease for the next 12 months.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Next up, we have EMS.
Give me just 1 second. I got some binders going to be passed out real quick. I thought we were going to be led through a PowerPoint presentation, but that's not the case.
Thank you.
We're not doing the PowerPoint? Okay.
I'm sorry, I thought the email went out right there.
All right, well, I'll go ahead and get started. So for those of you who received a binder, there is a PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to go through, but I would ask those that receive binders if you'll skip through the PowerPoint and please go to the first page in your binder that says fiscal year 27 budget presentation, and I'll start there and you'll follow along with me. So, good morning, everyone, Mr. CFO, Madam CFO, especially the citizens of Clayton County. My name is Tim Sweat. I serve as your fire chief and EMS director, and I'll be presenting the fiscal year 27 EMS budget request. First, one of the budget priority I want to speak to is the addition of 24 new positions. Specifically, 6 of those are firefighter, paramedic, sergeants at a total cost of $633,758. The last expansion to EMS in this community took place in fiscal year 2019, when we were awarded 2 additional transport units. However, even when those were awarded, they were only partially filled with just firefighter billets. So for the last 7 years, we have been working without leadership on those units, as the paramedic sergeant billets were not given to us back in 2019. Next up is the request for 2 additional transport units. We currently run 14. Once again, the last expansion was in fiscal year 19. That took us to 14 transport units. I'm asking for 2 additional ones. Just a little history on that. We have been asking for 2 additional transport units for the last 5 fiscal years, and have not been given any. So as far as the 2 additional units, 6 additional paramedic sergeants for ambulance expansion by 2 units, which will be addition of Med 12 in District 3 and Med 14 in District 1, once again at a cost of $633,758. Staff those 2 units, 12 additional firefighters at a cost of $1,157,330,000. In addition, I'm asking for $50,000 in signing bonuses for a total request of 24 personnel in EMS for a total of $2,474,846. If awarded these positions, I've already started interviewing with the hopes of getting these positions, and if so, the 24 billets will be filled with an effective date of July 6, 2025. Next page is operational impacts since the last expansion. So once again, EMS has not been expanded in this community since fiscal year 19. So county growth and service demand between 2018 and 2025. So since 2018 to close out of calendar year 2025, this county added 9,898 additional residential units, broken down by 5,836 single-family homes, and an additional 4,062 multifamily apartment units. 50.3% of that build-out has occurred specifically in District 3, which is where we see a lot of our struggles with trying to provide EMS to that particular district. Call volume from 2019 to 2025. We closed out calendar year 2019 with a call volume of 45,861. We closed out 2025 with a call volume of 57,342, which is a difference of 11,481 calls, or a 25% increase in call volume since the last expansion, once again, took place in fiscal year 19. Next page. So what is that 25% call volume? What has that done to our organization? So one thing I have to give a shout out to is Chief Roberts and the 911 team. Middle part of last year, I started working with 911 to try to track the amount of times that 911 calls come into this community where we have 0 transport units available to provide them basic and or advanced level of care. We call those events level 0 events. So beginning in December, we put this into place in the 911 team. When a 911 call comes into the 911 center and there's an ambulance that is requested, if I do not have one available, that call is time-stamped and it tracks the amount of calls in the community where I have no resources to send them. So December 2025, there were 125 calls that came into the community where I had no ambulances to send to them. So when those happens, fire truck has to respond. Those units sit on the scene and provide advanced and or basic care until we have a transport unit become available. January of 2026, 107 calls came into the 911 center where I had no ambulances to send them. Once again, fire trucks have to sit on that scene, manage those individuals until we get transport units available. February of 26, 77 times. Our call volume tends to slow down first of the year, so you'll see a slight decrease in February with 77 times. And then again, March of 26, 75 calls came into the system where we had no resources to send them. So on average, out of that 4-month span, we're running about 96 times a month where there are citizens and or visitors in this community that need an ambulance, and I don't have them to send them. That's what a 25% call volume from 2019 to 2025 that's the reality of EMS today. 911 did pull my calls as of 7 o'clock this morning. So as of 7 o'clock, April 27th, we're sitting at 86 times already in the month of April, where I have no resources to send to this community. Next page, EMS medical supplies, I requested $800,000. Finance recommended $600,000. Once again, I cannot manage a 25% call volume increase without additional supplies to run these calls. Once again, next page, sunset times announced on LifePak 15. So for us to provide EMS care to this community, we must have cardiac monitors. So we currently run a LifePak 15, which the sunset date, we have been notified that those will be coming within the next few years. So when that happens, we must begin to prepare to purchase the next models, which are currently in LifePak 35. So in the current EMS budget, I requested $340,000 in additional or in other machinery and equipment. Finance recommended $0. So we currently have 30 monitors in our organization. Every transport unit has one on it. Every advanced life support fire truck has one. Once again, because fire trucks oftentimes have to sit on scenes and manage patients because I don't have ambulances to provide the care and take them to the hospital. So we're looking at a 5 to 6 year rollout plan of replacing these monitors. They sit right at about $40,000 or $45,000 a piece for a single monitor to provide that advanced care in the field. And once again, once the sunset date is announced, our current LifePak monitors will not be able to be used as they will not be serviceable by Stryker themselves. And with that, that is the end of EMS, and I will take any questions that you may have.
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
We want to take a break or roll straight into the fire?
Give us a minute to load it up.
Okay.
And we'll be ready.
All right.
Just a second.
Ready?
Great.
All right, next we have fire.
So once again, everyone, good morning. My name is Tim Sweat, currently serve as the fire chief and EMS director. For those of you in front of me already here from the county side, you currently have your binder, which I will run through the fire side request. So once again, good morning, especially to the citizens, not only in attendance, but those who may be listening in online. So that is the fiscal year 27 fire budget request. I am asking for additional personnel of 22. And I will break that down as follows. The first request is to reclass a current position, which is Emergency Communications Officer, reclass that position to a Deputy Chief of Logistics. We have seen tremendous growth in the fire department over the last few years with the onboarding of Riverdale and those additional responsibilities, and this simple reclass of $17,233 is to realign my executive leadership team to get a Deputy Chief over Logistics, which it has historically been ran by a captain. So once again, that request is simply to reclass one position at a cost of $17,233. In addition, I'm asking for 4 lieutenant billets at a cost of $422,105, 6 sergeant billets at a cost of $578,065, 12 additional firefighter billets at a cost of $966,043. Signing bonus once again in fire for $50,000 with a total request of $2,033,446. And what that request represents is the addition of standing up one additional firefighting apparatus in the form of an engine in this community, as well as an additional ladder company in this community, due to the fact of some recent challenges that we've been put up against that I will get into on the next slide. So once again, operational impact since last expansion. So the last expansion to the fire deployment in this county took place in 2009. Once again, the last expansion to our firefighting footprint capabilities took place in 2009. A few people have asked me, well, what about Riverdale? Well, with Riverdale, when we bought on that additional territory, we had no choice but to expand our operational footprint. But when you look back historically prior to Riverdale, the last expansion in fire took place in 2009. And that was with the addition of Fire Station 15 in the binder. That's a mistake. Fire Station 14 was brought online back in 2009 in District 1, and that was the last time we expanded our operational firefighting capacity. County growth and service demand since 2018 and 2025. Once again, these are repeats from the EMS budget, the addition of 9,898 residential units, 5,836 single-family homes, 4,062 multifamily homes, with, once again, over 50% of that occurring in District 3 alone. Now, what I want to point out is the call volume increase, specifically speaking to our fire deployment. Once again, the last expansion was in 2009, so when you look at call volume from 2009 to the closeout of calendar year 2025, call volume in 2009 was 27,644. Once again, call volume in 2025, which is a repeat from the EMS side, 57,342, which is a 107.4% increase in call volume that we have to manage. We all know that any given third Tuesday night, this community, we approve additional residential properties, commercial properties. Every time we approve the additional build out of residential homes, multifamily homes, commercial businesses, as soon as those residential properties, commercial properties are built, they now become my responsibility to provide fire protection to them. As we all know, the growth that this county has seen, not only in the last few years, but once again, looking at 2009 to 2025, that call volume has expanded more than double, for a total of 107% increase. So what are the operational impacts if we do not expand our fire deployment? On September 17, 2025, I received our ISO public classification letter. It went to myself, Mr. COO, and Madam Chair, where we were informed that our ISO class had dropped from a Class 1 to a Class 2. We were also given the opportunity to participate in a retrogression program, and what that means, it gives me a year to fix the deficiencies that were identified by the ISO organization, and I chose to do that. On September 17th, 2025, the same day, I responded back to ISO with a letter stating my intentions to participate in the retrogression program. On October 15th, 2025, once again, all the supporting documentation is in the binders to include the letter that we received and my responses back to ISO. On October 15th, 2025, corrective measures letter was sent to ISO with my plans over the next 12 months to address the fire deficiencies that were identified once again, as we were notified that we have lost our Class 1 and went back to a Class 2. Those requirements include training improvements, which have already been put into place. But as you will see, it's the additional of one engine apparatus at Fire Station number 8 upon Fire Station 15 opening. I want to stop right there and just kind of give some historical look into that. Fire Station 15, which is an additional station in Lake City, is slated to open late May, early June. The current fire unit that will support that station, we have one, but it will be moving from another station. Going back to the EMS side, there is currently a transport unit that runs out of Station 12 on Money's Mill Road in District 3. That unit, our District 3, will lose a transport unit when that fire station opens, as that transport unit, once again, that was given to us in 2019, is slated to go to the new Fire Station 15. Also going back to the growth in District 3, over 50% of those 10,000 homes that we have approved over the last 5 to 6 years have occurred in District 3. The placement of an additional aerial apparatus for the residential and the commercial development that has taken place. As part of this letter I spent in October of 25, I had no choice but to take the heavy rescue unit that I have ran in this community for multiple decades out of service, due to the fact that ISO identified that I did not have enough aerial ladder companies in this county. I was currently running 6, and they told me that I must have 7 if I wanted to try and maintain my Class 1. So on December 2nd, 2025, the heavy rescue, which responds to all working fires in this community, anything technical rescue in nature, any car accidents where we may have victims entrapped, that is simply a manpower truck. Those individuals who ride it have special skill sets that address the most complex calls that come into this community. On December 22nd, 2025, that unit was taken out of service. I had no choice. I had to stand up a 7th aerial in order to try and save the Class 1 rating in this community. What ISO has allowed me to do is for those units to swing, and what that means is every morning at 7 o'clock when we change shifts, those individuals who are now staffing that ladder also check off the squad, and depending on the call that comes into the county, dictate which unit they get on and respond. We call that swinging in the fire service. They simply cannot do that forever. So once again, the 22 positions gets an additional engine placement in this county and additional 7th aerial, but also gets the squad back staffed up. And once again, those units are currently swinging between the two every morning to try to meet the demands of the calls that are coming in. Next slide for those of you who are following along. Operational impacts, once again, if it's not provided. Unfortunately, I cannot expand to an additional engine and an additional aerial without asking for a millage rate increase on the fire tax side. I'm currently asking for a millage rate increase of 0.35 mils. So what does that look like when it comes to the residential property owners and commercial property owners on the tax side? 0.3 mil increase basically equates to $35 for every $100,000 of property assessed value your property is at. So if your residential home is assessed at $200,000, and I am asking for an additional $70 to help save the Class 1 ISO rating for this community. Once again, I cannot expand, unfortunately, without a tax increase. Looking at the millage rate comparison over the last 7 years, 2019, we had a millage rate of 5.0, which is the cap. 2020, that was reduced to 4.906. Fiscal year 21, we reduced it again to 4.75. It remained at 4.75 for fiscal year 22. Fiscal year 23, it was reduced even more to 4.146, and it has remained at 4.146 for the last 4 fiscal years. So how does that happen? In essence, we created the perfect storm. Going back to the residential commercial growth in this community, when the community grows, the fire department must grow with it. If not, we now find the situation that we're in, where we are looking at losing our Class 1 ISO rating. Residential and commercial tax digest increases. Historically, we lower the taxes, but what happens is the growth continues. We're not allowed to expand to keep up with it, and now we find ourselves with making a decision whether to properly staff the fire department and or lose the Class 1 ISO rating. Once again, the call volume increase over the same time frame from 2019 to 2026 is 25%. But looking back historically at the last expansion to the fire department was 2009, and that call volume increase is almost 108%. Next slide, so what operational impacts if a fire apparatus expansion is not provided. So first and foremost, I've said it numerous times, if we do not expand the firefighting footprint in this community, we will lose our Class 1 rating. There is no way that I can maintain a Class 1 without having expansion in the fire department. And what will that look like forward facing to the community? So we all know if we lose our Class 1, we drop to a Class 2, that means increased insurance premiums both on the residential side and the commercial side for those insurance carriers who currently use the Class ISO rating to provide those figures to their residential property owners and commercial property owners. In addition, potential hit to the overall development throughout the county. Economic development and community development use our Class 1 rating as well as our fire accredited status to help draw businesses to the community. Oftentimes when businesses look to relocate to a community, they look for 3 basic things: hospital and public safety services. Community development, economic development has historically used our Class 1 rating, and the fact that we are accredited, which is being accredited and holding a Class 1 rating, is less than 5% of fire departments in the entire United States. In addition, looking at potential higher fire loss. Once again, every 3rd Tuesday night, we approve additional residential properties, commercial properties, but we have not expanded the fire department in order to adequately protect those. So if expansion is not giving, higher fire loss could be something that we see in the community. And then once again, overall employee fatigue and retention issues. Don't know where I'm at in time, and I'm going to use a quick last minute. My staff and I currently staffed a fire station on Saturday morning. We staffed Fire Station 8 over on Maddox Road, which is one of my busiest houses throughout the county. And on Saturday, we had 3 residential structure fires in this community. Once again, it is getting extremely taxing for our units to keep up not only with the fire call volume, but the EMS call volume due to the tremendous growth and the lack of additional resources that we've asked for but have yet not been afforded to us. So I would ask in closing for both fire and EMS that we take a hard look at both the fire side and the EMS side. Once again, EMS, I have no units. I run out every single day. You have the justification I provided. And when that happens, fire trucks have to sit on those scenes. You've now seen the situation I'm looking at on the fire side of the business, where unfortunately, if I'm not able to expand, we will lose our Class 1 rating. There's no way that I can maintain that without having expansion in the fire department. So I would ask that you keep the men and women of this organization in your mind, and the fact that they are running upwards of 150 calls out of 17 fire stations every 24 hours. And if we're simply put it, they are exhausted, and I don't know how much more we can do without getting some additional resources for them every morning at 7 o'clock when we change shifts. So with that, I will end there and entertain any questions.
No questions from me. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right. Thank y'all so much.
Next, we have senior services.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, the great Clayton County citizens. My name is Melissa Myers Bristol, and I have the great honor of serving as the Director of the Senior Services Department. Today, my team and I are pleased to present our fiscal year 2027 budget, a budget that reflects our continued commitment to enhancing and protecting the quality of life for the seniors and the family we serve in the county. At this time, I would like to introduce the members of our leadership team who will guide you through today's presentation. Ms. Sharonda Hill, our Aging Services Administrator, will begin with an overview of who we are as a department. Mr. Amari Jones, Cultural Arts Administrator, will highlight our community impact and intergenerational engagement. Ms. Tonetta White, Deputy Administrator of Finance, will present and explain how our budget support critical services. Ms. Kendra Shepard, our Senior Center Administrator, will conclude with our fiscal year 27 priorities and the impact of the Finance Department's recommendation. Together, this team represents the leadership driving our mission forward. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Sharonda Hill, and I serve as the Aging Program Administrator of Clayton County Senior Services. When we speak about senior services, we are not talking about numbers, we're talking about people. Our neighbors, our parents, and the pioneers who built this community. We serve a diverse population from active seniors seeking wellness and connection to homebound individuals who rely on essential nutrition and care. With a team of 84 dedicated staff, we operate across 6 facilities and serve more than 10,000 members each year. At the heart of our mission is a simple principle. Every service we support is a person, ensuring they live with dignity, purpose, and respect. And next is Amari Jones.
Good morning. My name is Omari Jones, and I'll briefly speak to the community impact of the Senior Services Department. Clayton County Senior Services helps protect and strengthen one of the county's most vital populations, our older adults ages 55 and up. Through our senior centers, food services, wellness initiatives, and robust programming that promote learning, engagement, and connection, we provide spaces, services, and support systems that keep older adults engaged, visible, and connected to community life. Although our department represents just 1.83% of the county's overall budget, we are determined to make that investment count by extending the county's reach to as many older adults as possible and ensuring that aging in Clayton County is met with care, respect, and purpose. For us, this budget is not just simply about dollars. It is a reflection of our values, our priorities, and our responsibility to honor and stand with the generation that helped build Clayton County into what it is today. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Tonetta White, and I serve as the Deputy Administrator of Finance. I will briefly highlight how our budget is strategically aligned.
Excuse me, for a
Can you
second,
hear
pull the
me?
mic down because they're recording.
Sorry.
Okay, I'm good now? Okay, all right. As I will briefly highlight how our budget is strategically aligned to support critical services for older adults and the community we serve across Clayton County. Our largest contracted services funds essential programs including transportation, ensuring seniors have access to critical care. This service is vital to maintaining independence and continuity of care. Our part-time salaries support operation, programs delivery, and facility coverage, allowing us to remain flexible and cost-efficient while meeting service demands. Next will be our training and travel one. It is limited to required high-impact professional development, ensuring our staff remains qualified and aligned with best practices. This includes participation in key conferences such as the National Council on Aging, Age in Action Conference. Our food and dietary supports both nutrition and engagement, promoting health, wellness, and social connections amongst individuals we serve. As well as our parks and recreation programs, expense provides supplies and materials necessary to deliver meaningful, high-quality programs in a cost-effective way. Overall, this budget reflects a disciplined and strategic approach, prioritizing essential services, operational efficiency, and strengthening the well-being of seniors in the community. And Kendra will go in a little bit more detail about each one of the accounts.
Good morning again. My name is Kendra Shepherd. I serve as the Senior Center Administrator. And at this time, I would like to highlight our key priorities and the impact of the Finance Department's recommendations. We have identified critical needs, yet we are facing reductions in key areas. First, personnel. Recommended caps on part-time salaries fall short of our operational needs, directly impacting our ability to staff the front lines and deliver essential services. Second,
Excuse me, Kendra, on number 1, can you tell us exactly which division or which center you may be referring to?
so we do have 3 senior centers. So our 3 senior centers, they do fall short with our part-time salaries. So those are the areas in which we need. And did you want to elaborate on anything?
Sure. So all of our part-time salary accounts were, the recommendation is a little less than we requested. And because we know that there were times where our positions were vacant, and based on previous trend, there was or you guys saw a need where you needed to reduce it. But because we're fully staffed now, it may become a challenge at some point later in the budget period at the end of the year. So we're requesting for you all to consider giving us all of the money we're requesting for part-time salary, or we just wanted to bring it to you all's attention that it may become a challenge because our centers are 90% fully staffed at this moment. Thank you.
Okay. Second would be transportation, which is in our contracts account. The recommended funding levels fall below our requests, which may require us to reduce ridership. And this directly impacts seniors who rely on us for critical medical appointments, including dialysis, as well as access to our centers for meals, wellness programs, and social engagement. Okay. Third is food and dietary. The proposed reductions impact the meals served daily in our cafeterias. These are not optional services. This increases out-of-pocket costs for seniors and limits our ability to provide consistent, nutritious meals. Okay, and then finally, facilities. We are operating in aging buildings, including the Frank Bailey and J. Charlie Griswold Senior Centers. We have requested modest funding for basic improvements, including painting and routine grounds maintenance, both critical to the health and well-being of our members. However, these requests receive a $0 recommendation. When we defer maintenance today, we are not saving money. We are creating more costly repairs in the future.
I'm sorry, one moment. Can you reference the line item that you're speaking in reference to?
48, 45.
48.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And then we are simply asking for support necessarily to maintain safe, welcoming environments and preserve the quality of the quality of life our seniors deserve. And I'm sorry, I didn't mention Frank Bailey and Griswold. Thank you. Did you want to say something else? Okay.
Thank you for allowing us to present our budget for FY27. We greatly appreciate you all. Thank you so much. And we're here to answer any question you all may have.
I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
You were talking about the buildings and maintenance. Have you spoken to the buildings and maintenance department on the issues that you need to have?
Yes, ma'am, we did, and the director of building and maintenance did mention that he did request money to cover the project at Frank Bailey, which is to repaint the whole entire building. But he said because it's not a priority, he's not going to be able to meet our needs. So therefore, we're asking the board. And I do understand, and I did mention to the deputy CFO last week that if our request cannot be honored, we're going to be okay. We're going to make it work. But obviously, we just wanted to bring the priorities to the board and to you all so you guys are aware of what some of our challenges may be later.
Okay. Did I understand you clearly to say that he did say he received those funds?
No, ma'am. He said the money he requested to cover the project at Frank Bailey, as of right now, the recommendation from you all is less than he requested. So because of he need to prioritize certain project, that he wouldn't be able to help us with that project. And this is our second request because we did request that last year, and it is a concern because it was brought to our attention by the Board of Health 7 years ago regarding Frank Bailey. They have a wallpaper on the wall, and they're saying it's a health issue. So therefore, we're trying to see how we can mitigate it by repainting the entire building. Thank you. Does anyone else have any other questions?
Can you talk a little bit more about the transportation contract? You mentioned the increase in ridership. Is this an annual contract that we have for transportation?
Yes, sir. We have two contracts, one with Two Friends Incorporation and one with Common Courtesy. Two Friend, we utilize Two Friend to provide transportation to our clients who are in-home clients, homebound clients, and their services is really needed and is essential because most of those clients, they need to go to dialysis and medical appointment. And we do utilize our grant to help to cover the cost, but at some point during the year, there is a need where we need to use county funding to help to offset the cost because the grant normally lasts until about 8 months. So therefore, we need to have some extra funding to help us to cover. And the need for transportation continues to increase every year. Like as I stated earlier, if we can't or you guys cannot honor our requests, we're gonna make it work as best as we can, but we're trying our best not to reduce our ridership. And Common Courtesy is a company that is a subcontractor that we utilize to provide transportation to our members to and from our senior and intergenerational center.
And can you also confirm the amount of the grant award?
Yes, sir. The grant award is around $200 and something thousand a year, and it's from our older Americans grant funding. And we do receive funding also for 5310, which is a transportation grant from the state, and we also utilize that funding for transportation. We did mention train and travel because we try to encourage our staff because training is extremely important. We know in order for you to find out about the best practices when you're serving the community is going through to these various conferences. So one of the conferences that we try to encourage our staff to go to is the National Council on Aging Conference, and we try to encourage at least 2 staff members from each of our centers. So the request we made to you all is to allow 2 staff members to go. But obviously, if that request is not honored, we're just going to try our best to make sure 1 staff member attend the conference. And to attend the conference is about $3,500, the cost for this year. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Any more questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Next up, we have the library.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Clayton County family, friends, staff, employees. I'm Scott Parham. I'm the director for the Clayton County Library System, and I represent close to 85 full and part-time staff covering 5 separate branches and a headquarters location. Our budget is a direct reflection of the county's pillars, as well as the library system's 5 major goals and objectives. The first one being outreach and community engagement. Next one is literacy, specifically in the form of health literacy and financial literacy. Also workforce development, educational engagement, and the last one is addressing the digital divide. So our budget and what we've asked for and will continue to ask for will be in alignment with these objectives. Where do you want me to start? There are 2 budgets or line items. Let's see, 4393, 4394. Admin, minor computer equipment, and other minor equipment. There was an ask for both of those line items. We currently do not have a refresh schedule for any staff computers. We have been working with our IT department over the last couple of years to try to arrange one. We do have a way of getting funding from the state library to address the needs of forward-facing or patron-facing computers and electronics, but there's nothing in place that when a staff person's computer goes down, we don't have anything in our budget to replace that computer. And it's very difficult for them to be efficient and do their jobs if they don't have the correct equipment. The other line item for other minor equipment, some of our libraries are dated. Some of the furniture in the branches is dated. And so keeping up with the furniture is a constant annual type of deal. Chairs get used, tables get used. Other furniture within the libraries are heavily used, and so in order to keep up, that line item is definitely needed. And the last one I think I would like to mention is our travel and training. We had asked for and received a generous amount. It's still not enough. We have 14, 15 professional librarians on staff. Each librarian, biannually, every 2 years, has to submit continuing education credits to maintain their state license. They have to have a license in order to maintain their job. So by going and attending conferences, workshops, all of this requires funding. And so trying to keep up, trying to make sure that everyone's license is in place, they have the continuing education credits needed, being able to send them to conferences is one of the major things that we ask for annually. And those are basically my highlights, those critical areas of need.
Can you speak to the additional funding that you're requesting for part-time salaries?
Which line item do we have?
So 511-200-400-100. Second line from the top.
400100?
Yes.
Yes. We've introduced a bookmobile over this past year, and we requested a full-time bookmobile driver last year, which we weren't funded for. So we've had to hire another part-time position for a part-time bookmobile driver. And so this person will go out with the bookmobile to the community, and those opportunities or those instances when our part-time courier driver is unavailable, we have a backup driver for that position as well.
Okay. And can you also talk a little bit about the dues and subscriptions line?
Well, I can talk without looking at it specifically.
Was there a particular library, Mr. Jackson, that you wanted him to talk about in particular?
It looks like TEC.
Tech services.
Yes.
For the library system, as I'm sure all of you have been and all of you have used a lot of our electronic resources that we provide to the public, this is the line item that we pay for those subscriptions. Mm-hmm. Databases, electronic databases, some of our electronic platforms, things of that nature. That's what we pull from that one. We have a RFID, radio frequency identification system, where we have self-check machines, we have security gates, electronic tags. So again, keeping up with all of that and the maintenance required for those. No, not that one. But there's, mm-hmm.
Any questions?
No.
That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right, we're going to take a little break. We'll be back shortly. All right. We are back in session. Next up, we have Parks and Rec.
Who's this choice?
CFO Jackson, we may begin?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Nicole Horn. I'm the Parks and Recreation Director, and with me today is my Assistant Director, Troy Stubbs. Given that our department is approximately 12 orgs and about 120 line items, we're going to try to give just a comprehensive overview of our department and why we make our funding requests at the level that we do. So, just bear with me for a second. So to begin, the mission of the Clayton County Parks and Recreation Department is to foster leisure activities, pursuits, and experiences through the provision of a safe and well-maintained park system, comprehensive and affordable recreation programs and facilities to the residents of Clayton County. Being true to our mission, our budget initiatives include security, parks and recreation facility maintenance, and recreation programming. With that, key areas to be funded at the full level requested in Parks and Recreation budget include, but not limited to, the following: our 4140 account, which is our contracts account, and I'll ask the Assistant Director to give a brief overview of what that account is.
Yes, 4140 is basically our contract services. A lot of things that we like to purchase out of that is like to fund our security for all our facilities, any contract services that we have for special events, our Groove on the Green, and things of that sort, even with our contracted services that we have inside our facilities where we but we fund our swim lessons and our instructor contracts and anything that has to do with the contract with the county. The other line items that we'd like to discuss is with our janitorial supplies, our Parks and Recreation supplies, which is 4410, recreation program expense, which is 4760, our training and travel, 4785, our R&M for machinery and equipment, and our R&M for recreational area. Those items, 4825 and 4845, are basically where we do where we fall after building and maintenance does their high-end purchases and things to our facilities. We kind of do the low end of our budget funds that help us repurpose fitness equipment, basketball goals, anything in our department that needs any type of small item repair and maintenance.
Thank you, Assistant Director Stubbs. So one can ask, why is funding out? One question that could be asked is, why is funding allocated in these accounts requested? Here are a few reasons, and you can find the first two reasons in our National Recreation and Parks Association website as a guide. Studies have shown that Parks and Recreation departments provide significant benefits to the health and well-being of people who use these spaces in the economy. Data establishes that the ways parks promote greater well-being access across four domains of health, physical, mental, social engagement, and environmental education. Greater physical activity, access to green spaces and services and programs that promote better health outcomes lead to less reliance on medication, fewer trips to the hospital, and lower healthcare costs. Data also shows a vast range of economic benefits to parks provide. Local Parks and Recreation departments operating and capital expenditures across the United States have generated $218 billion in economic activity and supported nearly 1.3 million jobs in 2019. There's one facet of Parks and Recreation's economic impact, which includes environmental benefits, business development, tourism, and higher property values, and a larger tax base. So Parks and Recreation provide an economic impact to our communities as well. Number two, our department, your Clayton County Parks and Recreation Department, is a nationally accredited agency. We just went through our reaccreditation process last week. This demonstrates that our department meets the national standards of best practice. We recognize the community as a great place to live. It helps secure external financial support and reduces costs to the community, holds the Parks and Recreation Agency accountable to the public, and ensures responsiveness to meet their needs, and ensures that all staff are providing quality customer service. Additionally, it proves that decision makers, stakeholders, and the public that our department is operating with best practices of the profession. It increases credibility and can improve internal and external funding. It improves overall operations and increases efficiency, enhances staff teamwork, and provide an engaging all staff in the process, and creates an environment for regular review of operations, policies, and procedures, and promotes continual improvement. The third thing is our department is a revenue generating department for the county. Within the last 4 budget cycles, pavilion rentals have generated an average of $70,000 per year. Our Spivey Splash Water Park has generated an average of $2 million per year. Our recreation centers have averaged $900,000 per year, and those costs do not include the revenue that we've made from our athletics programs. It does not include the cost or include revenue that we've generated through movie productions coming to use our facilities because our parks are so well maintained. So those are just a few ways With the new fees and charges policy the board has passed, the department has the ability to increase revenue through rental facilities and equipment rentals from external stakeholders to include the movie production companies. Our staff are trained professionals holding national certifications and are active members of state and national organizations. In closing, it is my belief with a full funded park system at the level in which we made our request, and we are budget neutral. I do want to say that. We're able to be true to our mission by providing safe, well-maintained, and comprehensive and affordable programs to the residents and visitors of Clayton County, because we want the residents and visitors to know that you belong here. So that's just kind of Parks and Recreation in a nutshell and how we justify our budget request. But if you have individual questions, we're here to answer those. Oh, I do want to add, if you've seen movement, CFO Jackson, because I know you're new, in our accounts where some of our accounts are less or they're greater. Over the past 2 years, the assistant director and I have tried to make sure that we have money in the appropriate accounts to eliminate some of the line item transfers and budget amendments that are being made in our department. So that's where you'll see some increase and decrease, but overall, we try to remain budget neutral.
Okay. Can you speak to your budget request for additional funding in part-time salaries?
So in part-time salaries, we use the matrix that's provided to us with the number of part-time employees that we have, the number of hours that they're allotted to work per week within a 50-week, right? Mm-hmm. Within a 50-week yearly period. So we actually use the matrix that we were provided. So utilizing that matrix, the math is kind of the math depending on how we're staffed across our department.
Is there a specific division that you see was increased more than others?
Let me see.
Because we got to go through 12 of them. So
The water park was probably the biggest.
Yeah.
Part-time temp.
So for water park, for us, we try to staff at least 80 staff overall to successfully run our water park, to include lifeguards, seasonal attendants, maintenance. What are they? Admission attendants. So it's a full operation there at the water park. And those part-time employees or seasonal employees at the water park tend to get additional hours, which you won't see in our other areas, because we are a six day a week operation, not a 5 day a week. We're 6 days in other places, but they're staffed at 40 hours a week, just because of the operations of the water park and to make sure that we're fully staffed. 1169.
Spivey Splash.
Spivey Splash. 1160.
Oh, 60.
It's 1160. The Spivey Splash.
Spivey Splash. I'm in the Recreation Center.
And also in that 1160 account, it's not just Spivey Splash staff, but all of our aquatic staff is now in that account. So to include the staff that works year round in our indoor pools.
Yeah, the lifeguard pool.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Shelley. That's a change.
I don't have any more questions, team. All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Good job, Troy.
Next, we have police.
Morning. Morning, sir.
Greetings on behalf of the Clayton County Police Department. I'm Chief Roberts, and I have with me my logistics commander, Sergeant Demetrius Williams, who is the daily caretaker of our budgetary operations, and she will be assisting in coordination. How you want to start?
If you would like to list or speak to your top priorities for the new budget year, and then we'll go line by line.
I would be glad to. I'm glad you asked. So throughout our budget submission, there are some key action items that I really want the Budget Committee and the Board of Commissioners and the community to consider. We submitted a request for $2.6 million worth of vehicles. That is a great priority need for us in that right now vehicles are a part of our incentive-driven recruitment process and operational process. The bottom line is a vehicle right now in law enforcement goes hand in hand with a gun and a computer and other resources that our officers need daily to do their jobs. We've fallen behind over the years with not replenishing our fleet, and we've been that way for an extended period. We've gotten our vacancies down to 10 this week, 10 police officers vacancies. We hadn't been that low prior to COVID. I want to keep it that way. I'd like to get it down to 0. But for us to be competitive, we have to have these vehicles to keep these young men and women in the community and responding to those calls. So I didn't see a note in our submission in response, but if anybody asks Budget Committee, Board of Commissioners, citizens of Clayton County, we don't get those cars, we don't continue to maintain the service that we're providing today to keep our crime statistics headed in the right direction. Since we're talking about vehicles, there was also a submission in our budget to discuss incentive-driven certifications for personnel within the agency. We took that approach because I know that our folks are falling behind in competitive wages. As a matter of fact, just as recently as a week and a half ago, I was notified that one of the city jurisdictions within our agency got approved to raise their starting salary to $60,000. That's $8,000 more than what we pay a police recruit or police officer starting with Clayton County. It is unacceptable to me and unacceptable to this community that any agency within Clayton County that's a police department is getting paid more than my police officers. The reason I say that, call volume. We are the leading agency in this county answering calls. Our folks need to be compensated accordingly. So if this budget doesn't allow for that to be made across the board, then we have to get creative in compensation to retain and attract the good men and women we need in our space. Thus, we submitted the request to base incentives on certifications within our agency. We wanted to give incentives for our officers getting their supervision and management certifications. And we also wanted to consider additional incentives for our officers who move forward to try to attain their master's degrees. I don't think there was any commentary on that, but that needs to be a discussion item. I do intend later this year to go before the board, not later this year, quickly, to go before the board to discuss compensation. We don't want to lose the great ground that we've made, and I think we have to address that as a county leadership. Additionally, in our submission, I did realize that there was a recommendation to reduce safety supplies, and medical supplies. The medical supplies for us is key, and I don't know if that was driven due to a reduction in use during this fiscal year, but those medical supplies are used to manage our animal population and animal control. If there was a reduction in that use that that finance saw, is because we only had one facility for half of the year, as our Jonesboro facility was closed for maintenance and upkeep for about 6 months. So that would lead you to believe, if you just look at the numbers, that that money is not needed. That is not the case. The Jonesboro facility is back up and running, full speed ahead. If you're not paying attention, we have some very active animal advocates in Clayton County. Just 2 weeks ago, we had a small protest. one of the drivers of those protests relates to animal control operations. So as a leadership, a county leadership, a police department leadership, we don't want to open the door to give ammunition for additional concerns about animal control operations. So I would advise and recommend that we reconsider cutting that money. What am I leaving?
You hit the highlights with the safety supplies.
Okay. Mr. CFO, you want to do your line by line?
Sure, yes.
All right.
The first line item I wanted to talk a little bit about was the computer equipment, where you're requesting $365,000.
Yes, sir. So we want to replace all of the aging equipment. The department still has outdated computers, which they are very slow, I would say. So we are wanting to replace those computers, which we haven't replaced those in the last 5 years.
To be clear, are we talking about computers in cars or computers in general or computers in offices?
All of the above.
Thank you, ma'am.
Can you talk a little bit about your requests for training and travel?
Absolutely. So training, Clayton County Police Department has elite officers. One thing we do, we send our officers to training. And that's why our officers are so marketable to other agencies. So in order for us to properly train, we have to send our officers off to training. And a couple of examples would be like our SWAT officers for SWAT training, high operations. We have drone training. We have training for our pilots, for our helicopters, and we have everyday training for our officers for criminal procedures and different things of that nature to keep them trained up and abreast of laws.
I'll add this, Mr. CFO. She hit the nail on the head, but a bigger picture, that training component is also one of those initiative-driven pieces that keeps folks coming to Clayton County and keeps them here. We have the best trained officers in the region. I will speak to this as recent as last Thursday. I lost an officer to another metropolitan agency. They didn't even have to do a background check. Why? Because he was coming from Clayton County. I won't speak the way he went because it's a problem for me. I don't want to give him free advertising.
There was also an additional increase in repair and maintenance for autos and trucks for $10,000.
Yes, sir. So when our cars go down, for example, our rocket boxes or lights and sirens, if it's something that the radio shop can't repair, then we are responsible for those repairs. So if we don't have the money to repair those cars, that's one car that's going to be out of service, meaning there's an officer potentially riding with another officer, which can be a delay in response time or something to that nature. So we would ask that you guys consider that for repair and maintenance so we can properly get the cars in service.
I don't have any more questions, team.
One thing just to make note of, $3.5 million will be provided to the fleet team out of SPLOST for them to allocate to vehicles throughout the county as they deem necessary, based on mileage, vehicle repair, and the like.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm looking for the director of vehicle maintenance right now. Anything else?
No more questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, next up we have transportation and development.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Commissioner. Tell me when you're ready.
You're ready.
Okay. My name's Keith Rolling, Interim Director of Transportation and Development. Having been in the position now for just a couple of months, I'm still trying to get my sea legs on this budget stuff, but we'll go through this and see how we do. The T&D's budget is primarily SPLOST. The SPLOST programs have been funding a significant portion of our department's budget for about 20 years now. All capital expenditures, maintenance items, as well as a portion of our salaries are expended through the SPLOST program. Essentially, our budget request is in line with our budgets from the past couple of years. And we've got a few notable exceptions. There is the T&D miscellaneous revenue, insurance claims. Y'all have had a budget of negative numbers in there at one point. We would like to get those to zero because that anticipates revenue.
Look, we're not going to review revenue now. We're just
Oh,
going
okay.
to review expenses, but the revenues have to show a negative that shows that it's revenue. But skip all of the accounts that begin with the 3.
Okay. All right. Let's go to the full-time salaries. It's 4075. To start off with, the request that we made was in the salaries line item, but it is inclusive of the other budget line items that support the salaries. Now, we've got 111 positions. 41 of those are vacant. Okay, so that's we've been having a vacancy rate of about 35 to 37% for almost 10 years. And what we did last year with some of our engineering titles by deleting positions, we can't do that anymore. If we delete any more positions, we're going to have to reduce some of our services that we offer. We've given data over the last several years showing that we're about 20% lower than our adjacent counties. Over the past several months, we've lost 4 employees to other counties and municipalities because the most recent one left to make $3 an hour more at the same title. So last year we increased the engineering positions by cutting those positions, as I said. However, we have not gotten viable applicants for those positions. So tells me we're still low. Anyway, so we've asked for that amount, and we're hoping that y'all will at least consider part of that so we can try to get our guys to where we can get them trained and keep them. Our other contract services, 4140. We've asked for an additional amount. This is primarily because of the red light running camera program. There is a part of the new contract that really didn't hit us until mid-year this year, where we have to pay for additional costs for the mailings, and that's basically what we're asking for there. We've also got some other things in there that we need to keep if at all possible, so you can help us with that, that'd be great. R&M machines and equipment, 4825. This is due to the price increases from our vendors that calibrate and help us keep our machines going. We've also got R&M, our road resurfacing, This is where we pull for guardrail repairs due to crashes where we get reimbursed. There's been some problems here lately because of the level at which we have to gain reimbursement before a line item transfer will be made. We're asking that be increased to reflect what we need in order to make sure that we don't have guardrail out there in unsafe conditions causing us to have liability. Now, next year, I'll give you a heads up, we're going to have a new salt facility. We're going to probably need to increase that drastically in order to fully stock that facility so that we can have more than 3 or 4 days worth of salt when we have a snow and ice event. Machine rental and equipment. I've got that in there when we use it, when we need it. The reason I've got it in there, that's 4220, is that prices are going up, and yeah, we could buy equipment, but that's not worth it sometimes when you only need a piece of equipment 1 or 2 days a year. So that's why we have it in there, for specific equipment for specific duties and jobs. Our training and travel budget, we asked for $20,000 last year. It was cut to 15. We was asked for 20,000 again this year. The cost of conferences and all is going up, and we do the best we can to find free training for our folks, but we've got, I know our the trainer training is coming up for our flagging and all, so we're going to need that money when we get to that point. Other minor equipment, $43.94. We've got some outdated traffic counting equipment that we've been trying to systematically replace with some new stuff so that we can keep our data up to date. That's why we've asked for the 13.3 there. T&D electrical utilities, $4,500. We've asked for this to be increased because we've got several agreements with Georgia DOT that are pending to get turned over to us to maintain the new interstate lighting up there at the interchange, Forest Parkway and I-285. All that's going to be hitting us before long as soon as contractor turns that over. So we've got several of those agreements that are out there, and we need to do an increase in order to cover those costs.
Excuse me, Keith. We have moved all of the electric utilities to one account. That's why it's not showing there. All of the electric utilities across the county have been moved to one account. So it is funded, it's just in another location.
Okay, cool. Just be aware that that's going to hit then, okay? T&D road signs and supplies, $44,150. As I said earlier, the majority of our stuff is paid for by SPLOST. However, this account is where we charge the signs for the commissioner events, and again, materials are going up, and we have quite a bit of signs that we do. So we've asked for an additional amount there. Consulting fees. We've asked for an additional amount here because we've got, as with our contract stuff, we've got some of that is paying for staff augmentation to assist with work previously accomplished by folks that have retired. And the next line item is the same way with temporary rate, part-time temporary wages. We've had people retire that we have not seen applications for. This is a critical role. Both of these line items are covering those critical roles. And that's, some of these are being covered by SPLOST, but this is just the general fund portion of that. We've got it split out.
Okay.
And that's all I got for T&D. Any questions?
No more questions. Thank you very much.
All right.
He also has fleet, so he's gonna go.
Okay.
I've got fleet, and landfill, and streetlights too. Now, when are you gonna do those? You want me to cover all? Okay. You want me to go fleet next?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Again, going to full-time salaries. We've got,
Hold on one second, let's get it up on.
okay.
Okay, I'm sorry.
All right. We made the request for that additional amount. Of course, you know, we've got 22 full-time and 2 part-time positions. Of those 24, we've got 16 that are filled, which is about a 33% vacancy. We're not being able to attract viable candidates. So we're asking that we look at those salaries and adjust appropriately to try to improve the candidates that we get so that we can keep what we have, plus keep those in. We did reduce overtime salaries. Guys are not partaking of that. When we've got a lot of our stuff is outsourced, which I'll cover in a little bit, but that has trended downward, so we've reduced that appropriately. Other contract services, 4140. This account is where we have our staff augmentation contracts for the heavy truck technician, heavy equipment technician, along with our repairs to our fuel dispensers. You know, our new fuel station has been online, is going to get the warranty period will be expiring shortly. So we asked for that increase to cover those parts. We also got several new lifts that we have to have inspected periodically for all of our lifts, but that's an increase to that account. Fleet tire disposal. This is an increase based on our usage going up because of more vehicles, as well as the contract with the vendor has increased, and that's due to EPA regulations. The next 4 accounts are basically the guts of the fleet operations. It'll start with 4,800 R&M autos and trucks.
Can you talk a little bit about that increase for repair and maintenance, auto and trucks?
Yes. We've got an increase in the number of vehicles that we've used, or that we've purchased, I should say, and that the county uses. We've increased by 324 vehicles since the 21 SPLOST program has been initiated. That's that doesn't include the replacements. So that's a 44% increase in our over 1,800 vehicles that we maintain. A lot of what I'm going to talk about here is because of all the fuel increases and all that's happened. But the R&M autos and trucks is where we pay for the parts, which I don't know if anybody's gone to the parts store lately, but you've seen an increase. I feel sure, and this is especially true since the COVID. So, vehicle accidents. This is something we cannot control. We just anticipate based on the trend. So we're asking for that one. Again, body shops have been probably one of the most significant increases that we are seeing when we go to the repair industry. So they, I don't know why that happened, but it's gone up. The next one is the fleet diesel supplies, 4320. We've had an increase in the number of vehicles that run on diesel across the fleet. We were expecting to underrun this item this year, but recent impacts to the fuel market has really hit pretty hard. So we're hoping we come in under budget, but it's possible we may need some additional money this year. That's why we're asking for the additional money in that account. The fuel, the gas and oil for the regular vehicles is the same way. The price fluctuates. We were thinking that we had enough money that we could do a line item transfer out of this account into diesel, but I don't think we're going to do that. We're going to need some more in the gas and oil supplies budget before the end of the year this year. So we've asked for that budget. Next item I want to talk about is dues and subscriptions. This covers subscriptions for the fuel software, the vehicle data schematics, vehicle diagnostic software, our parts list. The costs for this year have not been realized yet because they bill in April and May. So that's why there's not a lot of spending right yet, but it'll hit us pretty hard shortly. If you could bear with us on that and help us cover those costs. This is basically, the other part of that is the fuel software comes out of, the fuel management software comes out of that is running our new fuel stations. Fleet autos and trucks, 60/20. In the past, the board has given us a little help with this. We've been spending right at $3 million out of the 21 SPLOST, and we've supplemented that over the years to try to help keep up with the number of vehicles that we maintain, to get those older vehicles off of the fleet and replace them. We've asked for $3 million to try to help with that. We've got $3.5 million left in 21, which I'm hoping y'all will give us that money to start working on right now, so we can have stuff anticipating the needs of police department and sheriff's office. And that's what I've got for fleet. Any questions?
Nope, thank you.
Okay.
I do have one question.
Oh.
Yes, sir.
Water finance. With the fuel disruption taking place and prices surging upwards 30–40%, it's kind of we're going to have to begin to look at some kind of action to begin to deal with that.
Absolutely.
As far as food, as far as police.
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay.
What's
And
next?
you are doing building and maintenance next as well?
No,
Oh.
street light fund. You can go ahead.
Go street light? Okay. That's short and sweet. All right. Yes. We've asked for an increase in our full-time salaries. We've got an engineering position that's coming out of there, which has been vacant for a little while. And we'd like to maintain the ones that we have in that, as well as fill that position. So the travel and training. I'm getting ahead of you, I'm sorry. Yeah, we've asked for a slight increase there to cover some of the annual conferences and training that we need to do. We've got 2 people that need to go to the training each year. This year we were able to send 1. And we also cover some of the other expenses for training on the local UCC, Utility Coordinating Council. Events. The Streetlight Fund utilities. One of the things, I just asked that y'all look at that account because according to Georgia Power information we have right now, the bills for the revenue generating streetlights that we have are not all being assessed in this account. So they need to look at that. And that one, we have not had a rate increase since 2009 or 10, somewhere in there, so 15 years.
We've just made those increases into that account. If you look at the finance recommended amount, it's like $1 million more than the
That's not
request.
enough.
But we've moved those in, and if it turns out to be more, then we'll increase it. Just for the public knowledge, Streetlight Fund is a separate fund. These dollars are not coming from the general fund. This is a separate fund. So we'll increase it if we need to.
And we've got a request in for additional $2,000 in the engineering supplies, because that's where we pay for the paint and flags where we do our utility locates. And we've got an additional item that we have to locate, being the power for our traffic signals and street lights. When we have a locate request, we have to go out and locate those. And that's all I've got. Any questions?
Questions? That's it. Thank you very much.
All right. Landfill? Okay. We've asked again for full-time salaries here, even though we are almost fully staffed. We've got one vacancy, but these guys are the ones out there in the heat on operating equipment on top of the trash. Yes.
I'm sorry, one moment. We're on landfill, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So we've asked for the increase. Again, this is spread out over all of the associated line items with benefits and all. Our overtime salaries, we've reduced that, I think. Yeah. It was 60,000 last year. We've reduced it to 20,000 because we are at near full staffing, and we're thinking that will not be necessary to cover the gaps in service. You know, that is a 6-day-a-week operation, and they usually run 12 hours each day. So, and let me say this about our landfill. In calendar year 25, 54% of the trash buried is non-revenue tonnage. You know, the landfill is supposed to be a standalone entity. The non-revenue tonnage that we get is from our internal departments, such as refuse control, T&D, Sheriff's Department, the Water Authority, and building maintenance. So, that's over half of the tonnage that we receive that we have to cover. Let's go to other contract services, 5140, or 4140, excuse me. This account pays for this account reimburses the prisons for their cost for inmate crews to drop off, work the drop-off area, I should say. However, this is lowered quite a bit because last year we had the power plant rehab in there, and that's come out of that. We do have increases for hydro seeding and some of the other contracts that we have, contract services.
Can we see the detail for other contracts? Thank you.
Our consulting fees. Our engineer of record that does the environmental compliance is going to be asked to monitor and report on the power plant, drawing a blank, on the power plant, and that's going to be an additional demand to the previous years. That was previously performed by Train, who is no longer under contract for those services. That was part of their original power plant agreement. And once they're up and running, they'll be asked to make sure that along with the other monitoring, which is leachate, groundwater, Title VI reporting, excuse me, Title V reporting, and then there's a remaining capacity report and methane evaluation report. There's a lot of things that they will be doing, helping us out. Rubber tire disposal, again, like fleet, we have to pay to dispose of these. While we get a fee from the people that are dropping them off, we still have to pay to get those picked up because of the history and the increase. We've asked for an additional $2,000 in that account. I believe it is to 35. Okay. The 4825 R&M machines and equipment. We've asked for an additional $300,000 on that because of the Yancey Power Systems maintenance of the power plant, along with other costs that we've had over the years that crop up with our equipment. And the last one that we've asked for an increase in was the $47.91 uniform rental. It's gone up because we are finally at nearly full staff. And that's all I needed to discuss. Any questions?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Next, we have central services.
Are we ready? Good morning. My name is Carol Rogers. I am the Chief Procurement Officer for Central Services. So I want to say good morning, of course, to our CFO, Deputy CFO, finance staff, and certainly to our citizens. Central Services actually oversees all the procurement for the county. That includes your contracts, compliance. We also do risk management for the county, property insurance, claims. We also have warehouse operations. We do this to ensure transparency, accountability, and responsible use of public funds for the county. Today I want to focus on 3 specific items and certainly open to any questions that you all may have. The first one is our consultant budget. That is account number 4120. In reference to this is a budget for 2 different consultant services. The first one is for detailed reporting. Central Services has the pleasure of hosting a small local business enterprise program where we encourage small vendors in our area and surrounding counties to procure with the Clayton County on various projects. So we're asking for the consultant budget to make sure that we have the reporting factor so we can actually see how we're utilizing these companies on behalf of Clayton County and our citizens. We're also asking within that budget an amount for our mentor protege program. This is a program that we actually started probably about 2 or 3 years ago. It's a great program. It ensures that we take smaller companies, proteges, and we mirror and we work with them with our mentors. We're requesting additional funding. We have worked with Clayton State University with their Small Business Development Center to actually have them tailor classes and target classes for our SLBEs. Those courses over the last year was great, so I know finance, your recommendation is a little less than what we requested, but we certainly want you all to look at that. It is a very successful program. Next, I want to focus on my personnel budget for Central Services. I think that's 4075. Within this budget, what we have asked for, a few years ago, the board approved a reorg for Central Services. What we were trying to do and what we're still currently doing is actually competing with other entities for procurement. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that when I get to my training budget. So what we were asking for back then and what was approved was a tier process, where where our employees are able to move up without having someone actually leave. That's based on their experience, also based on their certification, and certainly based on their education. What I'm asking for in that account is to create a tier level for our purchasing specialists. So that would be a purchasing specialist 4. We have 2 sides of the house within Central Services. One is our procurement side, and one is our side that does our purchasing. We have a 4 for our procurement side. We don't have that for our purchasing side. We have candidates now that we have one candidate that has achieved the goals, worked really hard, and we want the ability to be able to move her up into a 4. So the request is not to add a new position for a new person, but to add a new position to move an existing person into that position. And finally, the last item I want to focus on is going to be our travel and training budget. That is $47.85. And as we talk about staff within Clayton County, we are a regulatory department. We work directly under the county's purchasing code. We have to ensure that we're purchasing products within the code established by our Board of Commissioners. But we also have to make sure that we're purchasing based on the funding source. We have to ensure that we're purchasing based on federal funding, grants and outlines. I know you all have heard a lot from different departments talk about grant funding. We actually have to procure those items. So it's important that we have trained staff that's actually able to do that. We just had T&D speak about the Department of Transportation and their projects. We have to have only certified people to work on any projects that's funded through the Department of Transportation. So we have at least 3 levels of procurement we have to look at. We have to look at also the state level when we do construction. That's not governed by Clayton County's procurement code. That's actually governed by the state. So we have to look at the county code, the state code for DOT, as well as the state code for construction. And we have to look at any federal codes as it pertains to federal funding. And those are the 3 items that I wanted to speak to, and certainly I'm open to any questions you all may have.
Line item 483500, repair and maintenance, office furniture and equipment.
Yes.
You are requesting $200,000.
Right, so that account is actually an account that's used for our copiers overage, so it's actually used by finance when we pay an overage for copiers. So that is what we do countywide. That ensures that we pay for that, and obviously there probably is some a level where that money is going, you know, we go back to the department to receive it, but that's for all the copiers. Just to let you know, all the copier contracts for each department is managed by Central Services.
Questions? That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a break right now, and we will resume at 1:30 p.m. Thank you.
No.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Next up, we have the Circuit Public Defender's Office.
If they do, they're gonna come in later.
Okay.
Really know.
Okay, I'll go ahead and get started.
Davis has been here 50 years.
Good. My name is Doug Smith. I'm the Circuit Public Defender for Clayton County. In looking at the budget this year, let me go a little bit out of order, which is the indigent defense fees. And basically, that is the salary for the office staff. If you can see in Munis, I believe the current budget is $4,080,000. The recommended amount is $4,385,000 and $365,000, which the recommended amount increase is $305,365. I think that is a good amount. The only thing I would ask for is we do have a contractor on ARPA funds. The ARPA funds will end December of next year, December 2027. So I would request.
December of 2026.
Yeah, it ended December of 26, but we were funded and through the end of this year, I believe.
Right, this is 2026. ARPA funds end December of 2026.
Right. Okay. That's what I'm going to say. I'm thinking about fiscal 27, but what I'm saying is by the time we get to, if it ends in December, to get us from January 1st of 2027 to the next budget cycle, we will need to make up that money. So that's basically $100,000. So given that we're funded for half of this coming year, because that contract is renewed in December, I would ask for $50,000 to be set aside to get us from January 1st of 2027 to June 30th of 2027 for the next budget cycle.
You said 50,000?
50,000, because it's a $100,000 contract, so we were good, as you mentioned, until December of 2026. It's just that portion beginning in January 2027, that contract starts over again. So basically, I'm asking for that half to be included in the budget, so there aren't any surprises come January 1st.
And that's an indigent defense?
That's indigent defense. That's for a contractor that we currently have that was funded by ARPA funds. And as I said, those ARPA funds will expire December of this year. However, that contract would start again January 1st of 2027. So just to get us from 27 into the next budget cycle, we'll need the $50,000, half of that contract amount. And that is a key contractor for us that handles numerous serious cases in Superior Court for us. And then looking at the amounts, as far as Munis goes, I'm looking at our current budget for, and of course it's a little bit different than mine, the line item where we have the contractor services. I believe our current contract right now, or the current actual amount is $5,808, and that has been reduced to $1,000. And I believe that is, we're okay with that as well. So that was an adjustment that was made. I don't see it on. I think it's other contract services. Then the next amount I have is court reporter fees. We currently have $1,500 budgeted for that. We had, I think, $1,894 or $1,849 at some point. We had $1,500 budgeted for that. I would ask that to be increased to $5,000. Because the court reporter fees, you're entitled to have the actual presentation of the evidence taken down by the court reporters. They do not charge us for that. But if you want opening statements or closing statements in a jury trial, which can be very key, or voir dire when you're picking the jury, the court reporters by law can charge us for that, even though we are indigent defense, our clients are indigent, they can charge us for that portion. They're entitled to it. So because of that, and given the amount of trials that we have trial weeks every week in Superior Court in each courtroom, except for 1 month out of the year. A lot of times we'll have 2 trial weeks during the month. And so those fees have kind of escalated a little bit, where we've had to try and move some money around to cover that. So that is one request I would make, to go from the $1,500 to the $5,000. The other amount we have is the equipment rental. and that is the copier service that we have, which includes maintenance and that sort of thing. We are at 5484. The projection is 3624, and the recommended amount is 2,500. I would ask that we keep that at the current rate of the 5484. There was a situation with our copiers. We have 2 large copiers where somehow that we were getting billed for somebody else, and there was a billing snafu. We're still trying to work that out, but that amount of the 5484 is our actual cost that we're incurring for those items. So that is something that that we would like to go back to the 5484, keep that current if we can.
Doug, on that one, you requested 2,500. The department request was 25. Did you want to increase your request?
Yeah, we wanted it at the 5484 number because that's kind of what we've ended up with. Again, there was some kind of billing snafu where we've had to go back and forth as to who they were billing, and in fact, at some point, we were getting billed for somebody else's copier. But we can talk about that. We can have a subsequent meeting on that, and I can fill everybody in on that problem that we had with billing. But that is something where if we have it at the amount currently up there, the 2,500, I think we're going to run into issues going forward.
Okay.
And then looking at the next thing I have are mine is not exactly matching up with what you have here.
Can you just tell me the account number? I can go to it.
I can just take them in order. It is, let's see,
It should be the very last number from the account sheet.
the 5,000.
It should be running line. The last 6 digits.
The last 6 digits, so that would be, if you can show me on this, because mine is not matching up with what you have here in order as I go through Munis. I'm right here on the second one.
So you're gonna look at this number right here, that 4285, that's gonna be your building this number. And then this is all equipment rental, that's 4225, I need that very last number.
Okay. Okay, so I have that split up. I've got the 42,500. That was the one I wanted to keep at 5484. The 422,500. That was the one that we were looking at, the 2,500 amount, I believe.
You got it? Yes, sir. The one that's highlighted.
Yeah, that's the one that we wanted to keep at the 5424. The books and the next one, the 43500. We can leave that amount there, I believe. That would be fine. The next one I have is the 465,000. Witness fees, I believe we're fine on that as well, so that would be a problem. The other thing we have is, I'm looking at the 427, I think it is the 472,000.
Dues and subscriptions?
Yes. And I think the recommended amount I have is 11,525. So I see a 3740 over there. I'm not sure what.
Not sure,
That's
actuals
right,
right now.
your year-to-date actual.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I believe because it accrues during the year as we have people come on those fees. I believe we can leave that amount the same this year. I think that'll be fine. The only other question I had was, if we look at the 450000, that was the electronic utilities. I believe that was zeroed out. I believe we're fine on that as well.
Yes, we moved all of the utilities to one account. All the utilities across the county are now in one account.
Right, so I think that is, I think we're fine with that. And I believe those are really the only items we asked for adjustments for, the $50,000 for the contractor, and those amounts for the core reporting fee and the electronics as far as the situation with our copy machines and other electronic equipment. One of the problems we have is when we get discovery, we need hard drives and things of that nature to handle all the documents we have. So when the DA's office gets, for instance, body cam video, or if they take statements from witnesses and that's on a video, that takes up a lot of storage. I know the DA's office did get a new software system that they're trying to implement. I think we might be able to take advantage of that, but in the meantime, we do have to have data storage devices, and those can be fairly expensive. But other than that, I think the recommended amount for the personnel, if we can have the additional $50,000 for that contractor, we'd appreciate that because that person is valuable to our office. But other than that, I think we're good on all the other accounts. Does anybody have any questions?
Can you clarify the evidence expense that you're requesting for $5,000 and the recommendation for finance is $0, and witness fees, again, your request is for $5,000 and finance is recommending $0?
What number is that?
So
can you highlight that on?
Can we go to that line? It is
It's item 4 in the notebook, Doug, the first one, the evidence expense for $5,000. The notebook beside you is number 4.
Yes.
Okay, that would go just what I said as far as the storage data and all that kind of stuff, the hard drives, that sort of thing. Also to have a server to be able to store all those discovery packets. We handle about 6,000 cases a year, and so those storage drives get pretty expensive.
Okay.
And at some point, like I said, we'd like to be able to tie in with the district attorney's software. My understanding is once it's implemented, they will be able to share the digital discovery, but as of yet, that has not occurred.
All right. Any more questions from the team? All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Next up, we have building and maintenance.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Can we do tax commissioner's office first?
Yes. Okay, next up is actually going to be tax commissioner's office.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon.
Thank you.
Mhm. So, this is new, so what's the format here?
We're back
You're
to
gonna
like
pull
last
that
year.
on?
Yes, munis will be up on the
Okay.
screen, and it's also beside you in that note.
Okay, so let me be very clear, because I saw the previous person do a very detailed line by line versus this presentation that y'all had us fill out for the PowerPoint. Which is it? Like, I can give a broad overview and then you can ask questions, or do you Mr. CFO, first of all, pleasure to meet you
Yeah.
in person versus seeing your picture on email.
Yes, yes.
How do you want this to go?
So what we can do is you can discuss some of your high priorities for the new fiscal year, and we'll walk through some of your line items.
Okay.
I already have questions for you.
Okay. So for starters, I mean, high level, everything we ask for is needed. I don't put fluff in my budget, right? And so the vast majority of our budget is personnel and benefits. And real talk, we still need more personnel, but I'm not going to bother you with that this year. Personnel at this point is $2.7 million out of our $3 million budget. And operations is only $351,000 and some change in terms of our internal operations. And so we make it work, right? But the bulk of our budget is for personnel. And I got some positions that we could still definitely use, but we haven't presented those for this year's fiscal. Well, maybe for next year's fiscal, okay? But overall, like I said, the bulk of it is personnel, $351,000 for operations, which boils down to, I'm trying to see here, our personnel about 88% of the budget, and our operations expenses only 12% of our budget, okay?
Are you requesting new personnel?
Not this go round, no.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Fortunately, I don't believe. I have our chief deputy here as well. Doesn't appear that there have been any cuts to our request. So we're in good shape as long as it's approved as submitted. If for some reason there were cuts, though, I have to say the operational impact, if the priorities are not recommended, service levels will decline, longer wait times, which we've done well in shortening our wait times, so I don't want to go backwards. We've lowered costs for our residents in terms of our fees, for credit card fees, et cetera. So I don't want to, and we have our call center working well, so I don't want to have to lose anybody and end up with increased hold times for our residents again, or slower processing times. But right now, I think we look good. We haven't really asked for anything different this year.
Okay, can you speak to your requests for training and travel?
Sure. So every year, the tax commissioner, as a constitutional officer of Georgia, not just the elected tax commissioner, I have required CEUs that have to be met every year, in addition to ensuring our team has the annual training that they need. We are very legislatively driven on the property tax side and on the motor vehicle side. And so we have to keep up with the times, so to speak, keep up with the legislation. And so the trainings that we identify make sure we deal with the legislative changes that are upcoming, even if they haven't passed yet, so we can kind of prepare not just for our knowledge, but for our vendors to prepare our systems, right? Which is what we're dealing with now. Like we have HB, Lord have mercy, it's so many different ones, but one just passed that changed our assessment notices, which is about to cause a delay, which is ultimately going to cause a billing delay. But we pay for those changes. Every time they write something at the Capitol, it affects us financially and timeline-wise, and so it's a little bit chaotic. But these trainings help prepare us for different legislation coming down the pipeline and to keep our office relevant from year to year. I'm very technology driven. My staff knows, Lisa will attest, I'm not a very paper friendly person. It's 2026, honey, why are you saving it? If it's not original, let's go. Scan it and save it somewhere, right? And so I'm always seeking new innovative ways to make our office or keep our office relevant and to move it forward constantly. So these trainings like TC Tech, for example, is a technology focused training. We go to that training every year and have been for years. We switched up a couple because we noticed that the regional trainings or state trainings are not as, for the lack of better words, good as they could be. So we've gone to national level training so we can see what folks are doing all over the country and implement some new innovative things here that are not being taught necessarily at the regional training. So NACFO, that National Association of County Collectors, Treasurers, and Finance Officers, actually, what's the other one? It's NACFO and there's NACO. Is it NACO? I think so. But they run kind of, they're the same training, but for different parties. Like we are part of NACFO. We may try the NACO because folks have told us it would be beneficial, but for now, that NACFO and TC Tech, AMVA, this is a new one, but it's a national level or actually international level motor vehicle training. And so I've heard nothing but positive things from other tax commissioners that this is a good training to attend to prepare for the things that are changing nationally and are headed to Georgia. I don't like to be reacting to the change. I want to know what's going on and what's coming so we can be prepared for prior to. And so, yeah.
And can you also talk about your request for computer equipment?
Let's see here. And Lisa, you may have to come up here.
Which line?
Which line
that
item?
Line is 439300.
That's the printers and motor vehicle department printers. So let me say this. Printers are like so disposable nowadays. The equipment doesn't last like it used to. Our motor vehicle division, y'all, is busy before the doors open. They are lined up, ready to come in. We are constantly servicing customers every day, printing decals, printing registrations, printing everything related to title work for vehicles. On the property side, constantly printing receipts, homestead exemption, right? And so the constant use of those printers on a daily basis, clearly the life span is not long. And so this is our request so we can make sure we're all set. 2020 was the last time we replaced printers. It is 2026, so you already know. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Team, do you have any questions? That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Nice to meet you again.
One question.
Sure.
You alluded to for fiscal year 2028, possibly will have some, I guess, employee.
Potential requests for new positions.
High level, such kind of what they are. So, because with the other bill.
I ain't putting it out there so you can be planning on how you gonna say no. I'm just playing.
Especially with that other House bill that is not signed by those of the 14th.
Which House bill?
Right.
Huh?
The one sitting on the governor's desk.
I mean, it's a whole bunch sitting on it. Which one?
That if he doesn't veto for the
369.
I can't remember.
Yeah, so what Commissioner is talking about, HB 369 is a House bill that all of us are begging the governor to veto. Basically, he would make my position, the solicitor, the clerk of court, quite a few positions nonpartisan now, where the whole election process could turn into a whole circus, right? And so people are pushing for him not to approve that. I'm not sure if that elections process is going to affect my staff request. But
That's not the correct bill. I'm speaking of the bill for the.
forcing us into 581.
Yes. I believe is that.
I think that's what he's talking about. It may be SB 33.
Cap mills and also cap. By the CPI.
It's 581. Yeah, so I think that might be SB 33. And you're right, it's on hold, like he ain't signed it yet. So HB 581 was the bill that we talked about a whole lot in 2025. And many jurisdictions opted out, including Clayton County. Most school systems opted out because it would restrict their revenue. Like you got us almost at 20 mills for the school system, and you're saying they would be kept at the CPI, which might be 2.9 or something. That's a big gap in revenue for our school system. So if you have a county or any school system that already has a struggling, economy, then what'd you just do? You're basically like destroying that particular, and so.
So as far as it goes for your potential staffing needs for next year, that's why I kind of asked that question.
So I'll say this, cost will come into play with us having to implement 581, that bill, into our current operations. Tyler, in short, would have to reconfigure our whole system to accommodate that legislative change if it passes. I think we all kind of anticipated something was going to be proposed to force us because too many people opted out, but I'm not sure. Staffing wise, I can't even tell you how it would affect once it passes and we talk to Tyler and talk to the assessors and really have a better grasp on how all that's going to work. Then I can better speak to what staff, if any, we'd be requesting. Yeah. But there isn't any other legislation that I was thinking of that might affect right now. Well, yeah, every year because of population. While we had a decline, I think it's headed back up. And so we always have to keep in mind as population increases, that directly affects my office. We tag all the cars and pay, handle the property taxes. And as we increase businesses in the county. The one position I did, and Lisa knows this, I do want a dedicated team to handle title work. That would help speed up the return time for our dealers because we don't have adequate staff to process the title work faster than what we do. Right now, I think we tell them 10 days and we try our best to return it before then. But it would be great to have a team that's dedicated strictly for our dealers so we know we can turn it. They might bring in 20 titles in one day. It's a very time-consuming process. Then sometimes there are errors. And we have to, and that's just what we receive directly. Dealers' electronic titles is a whole nother ballgame, right? And so if there are errors in what the dealer submitted, I love it. The dealer gets the fee for processing the title work, and we get to correct their work for free. But that's a whole nother, I'll deal with that. That's not y'all, that's the state. But yeah, so it's very time consuming, and we do need a team dedicated to title work for the motor vehicle division.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Okay, next we have building and maintenance.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Guillermo Mendoza. I'm the Director of Building and Maintenance. My fiscal year 27 budget request, my key priorities are to be able to support HVAC systems. Within these facilities, we have multiple HVAC systems that need controls upgrades, installations upgrades, some of them to provide continuity and use of facility for, I will say, a couple police headquarters, Annex 2, Annex 3, Lakes Bayou Recreational Center, and IT towers. The IT towers, most of them are going to be for controls. Some of these expenditures are within the line items. The other key priorities is to do a department reorganization to reallocate funds within the departments. Basically, I have a service manager position that is currently unfilled. I'd like to remove that position, reorganize that, and be able to provide some salary upgrades or grade upgrades to administrative secretaries, service managers, and the assistant director of the O&M side of building and maintenance. The things that could potentially happen if these items don't get addressed, I mean, on my end, the continuity of the use of services could potentially come into a facility shutdown. Constituent complaints, lack of service provided to the facilities, to the services, to constituents, user departments, anybody that is within the facilities. The other one is the current competitiveness of the market for my service managers. So we understand that the service managers are responsible for overseeing all facilities within Clayton County. So it's roughly 3.5 million square feet. There's 2 guys that manage that. And those 2 guys are on call every other week. It's no different. I myself take over holidays. I take over Christmases because I want to make sure that they have the time off that they need. If not currently compensated, I mean, their demands on their roles is really high, and I want to make sure that they are supported within also the administrative side to be able to handle that. On the day-to-day operations side of it, I know that we have a couple of requests on our end. We just want to understand that by removing that extra service manager position right now, it would be at a cost savings to the county. So I'm looking at a cost savings of $32,000 roughly to the county. We understand that these things are going to change, and as long as the county continues to grow, we're going to be able to ask for support to be able to grow within the department. I understand that on my end, I've been creating what is called a department overview, department assessment. Currently, right now, like I said, we're at 3.5 million square feet. Our service techs in the field, we're roughly at 26 service techs. So now we have to understand that on that particular side there is a workload of 134,000 square foot roughly per service tech. There should be about 47,000 on a high maintenance stat, standard HVAC equipment, standard plumbing, standard electrical. So we're very high when it comes to maintenance requests on our end to the day-to-day use. This is going to be something that I will be presenting on an agenda meeting on my end, which is a department assessment I've been working on myself within the team to be able to bring to everyone. I mean, I wanted to make sure everybody understands where we're at and where we're going and what we're trying to do. Everybody knows on my end, I'm about repair versus replacement now. It comes to a point where sometimes you got to replace. Sometimes these units are way, way older than they need to be, and I cannot find parts to replace items. So it comes to the point where I have to replace them, and I'm forced to do it. I'd rather repair a unit, and my gentlemen and my ladies and everybody in my team knows that. I'd rather repair it. But it comes to a point where I need to replace it. And I've told people all the time, it's no different than those vehicles that used to run on the road, those Daewoo's. You don't see Daewoo's no more. Why is it? They don't make the parts. They don't make the service. They don't do that anymore. So it comes to a point where you have to replace. So with that being said, I'll open to any questions that you have for me.
Okay. Can you talk about the building improvements budget request that you have? It's a little over $3.7 million.
Yeah, of course. Some of it is going to be, so there's some facilities that require new roofs. There's a facility that, like PD Sector 1, the control units in that system is no longer doing what it's supposed to do. So it's basically a computer that my guys come in the field and go in there and go, hey, this unit needs to be cooling at this much. So this unit's not responding anymore. So I have to repair that. I have to, at this point, I have to replace that because it's not doing what it needs supposed to do. There is roughly about 13 units at 1117 Battle Creek. There's a rooftop units that I need to replace. One of the additions in there, the 158 million, is for roughly about 7 of them. There's turnkey installations for third floor water-cooled units. Those are basically, what happens is within the facility, it's a cooling tower, right? And with that cooling tower, there's lines of water that come into, there's lines that come into specific boxes. And those boxes are what provide cooling. So cold air comes in, cold water comes in, cools that unit provides the cold air. So those units themselves need to get replaced. They're past their service life, they're at that point. The IT towers control systems, the IT towers, what's happening right now is there is a third-party vendor that notifies IT when there's an issue with HVAC. So what happens is somebody calls me and go, hey, I have an issue with the IT towers. It's not cooling. So then in turn, I grab my phone, call my service manager, whoever's on call 24/7, 365, and go, hey, I need you to send somebody out there. So with this implementation and being able to put those controls in, we would eliminate all that. It would go an alert directly to us via email, hey, there's an issue here, and we'll address it even before anybody contacts us. Yeah, it's very, very nice to be able to try to bring us to the next level when it comes to facility maintenance. Annex 3, there is a final phase control, or Annex 2, final phase controls. I've already done a couple of floors, which is the control side of the facility. So everything is we troubleshoot everything via our access control, via our interfaces. So it's very different than what it was before. It's no longer on our end, hey, let me go move a little, we don't do that no more. Because there's so many people within those facilities that it makes it easy for somebody to go, I'm a little cold. Let me go freak that down. But then that person over there is very hot. So what I do is I standardize it. So we go anywhere from 71, 73, and that's where I would find that sweet spot where everybody's happy, and then we're controlling it like that. There's plumbing issues, CCCI, which is the jail, to be able to change all the sinks out there. There is some porcelain sinks that throughout the years have no longer, that have failed. I mean, people leaning on, people breaking them, so we're adding what it is a stainless steel trough sinks on there, completely get away. I've already done one section. There's 3 more housing units that I want to do as well to be able to provide that. I actually met with them last week. They were very happy with the replacements I've done. Very, very convenient. They was like, man, I've never had issues like this now when we got this. So that's what I'm trying to do. There's alarm system upgrades throughout the county. The alarm systems, yes, we're getting to the point where these alarm systems need to get replaced. They're no longer communicating, or if they are, we can change the communicator, but it's no different than trying to just fix something within an entity that is going to basically waste your money. I mean, it makes more sense to be able to come in and just holistically change everything and make it worth your while. I know there's public defender's office. We have some jail fixtures throughout the county, some flooring throughout the county, aquatic centers. I mean, there's a lot of things that I want to be able to do to be able to provide those service level to the constituents of the county, to those user departments that come in and go, hey, you know, this is a very nice facility. This is a well-kept facility. This is a well-funded facility. Because as of now, with the facility assessment that I'm doing, we're way below our national average when it comes to funding per square footage. This is something, again, I'm working on my end to be able to provide an assessment of the entire county and this particular department. So we have an understanding and we provide a game plan to grow. So let's get this thing, I'm not asking for right now. I'm asking 5 years, I'm asking 10 years from now. Let's have this progressive plan to be able to handle these things. Anything else?
Questions? I don't have any more. Thank you very much.
No problem. You have a good one.
All right. That concludes our meetings for today. We will resume tomorrow at 9 a.m. Thank you all for watching.